Have to hear what LA Knight just said, and in this video I'm going to tell you exactly what he had to say and why LA Knight fans are going to be stunned and LA Knight haters are going to shake their head, because LA Knight, yeah, well, he's found himself in a very interesting situation. He's now incorporated into the Bloodline storyline, and it's something which makes you wonder, where is this leading? Sure, he lost the U.S. Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura at Survivor Series, and earlier this month he lost in a rematch. He technically won the match via DQ, but he lost in trying to reclaim a championship in which he lost a few months ago. And it was because of outside interference from the Bloodline, right? And now we're incorporated into that. Now, LA Knight's journey in WWE has been one of ups and downs, whether it was the success in which he had in NXT as a heel, and later just having really a fun program with Cameron Grimes, or his Max Dupree stint on the main roster under Vince McMahon. That was surely a weird scenario. But I will also say this. LA Knight, regardless of what you think of him, whether he's overrated, underrated, or properly utilized, he's a guy that gets a reaction from the fans. It doesn't matter what WWE does to this guy, he always gets a reaction, whether it's as a heel in NXT or as a babyface on the main roster. Now, LA Knight, you have to understand, as we get to today's video, he got the fans behind him in a very strong way in 2023. It was early in 2023. He actually had a feud with Bray Wyatt. And this is where fans started to get behind him, and his reactions got bigger and better with the audience despite missing WrestleMania that year. Now, by the time that Knight entered the Money in the Bank ladder match at the 2023 event, he was red hot with the crowd. This was thanks to later pairings with John Cena as a tag team, as well as a feud with The Miz. In an interview with Witty Witter, yes, that's it was a fine interview, I'll say that. He spoke about this time, 2023, which was a pivotal time for LA Knight. And he noted that he doesn't know what led to the reactions from the fan base that changed his momentum, because it wasn't like he was getting a huge push on television, right? It was just anytime he would be seen on television, anytime he did a promo, anytime he just had a match, people just got behind him, and this is what he had to say. Short answer, I don't know. I really don't know. Because, I mean, if you look at everything that was going on at the time when the rise really started happening, the only thing that I could really attribute it to was just taking advantage of some time that I had when I was doing the whole deal with Bray Wyatt. But at the time, still, it was kind of like, we don't know about this guy. But it seems like once I got out of that, I don't really have a direction. For months, there was nothing happening with me, but somehow in that time is when, oh, wait a minute, I think we kind of have this guy. We kind of like this guy. I don't know what it was, but clearly I must have been making the most of my time because I wasn't doing a dang thing. So something was hitting. I don't know what it was. I can't attribute anything to it. Now keep in mind that in 2023, we would go on and we would see LA Knight challenge Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Championship. Now, prior to this, I had done a video, which you can go back on the channel and check out, where I was talking about how I believe LA Knight is in a perfect scenario in which he can go on and win the Royal Rumble in 2024 and then go and challenge for a world title at WrestleMania. Not Roman Reigns' title, because I didn't think he was going to dethrone Roman. I thought Cody was going to finish his freaking story, and that happened. But I thought he could be a world champion. And that didn't happen. Instead, they booked him at Crown Jewel 2023, and they had him lose to Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Championship, and it took a step back for him. He worked a Fatal 4-Way Royal Rumble match that January, another loss. He got screwed out of the Elimination Chamber, had a decent program with AJ Styles, and then just ups and downs, up and down, and up and down in 2024. But when it comes to LA Knight's rise in 2023, yeah, I could not explain why they gravitated towards him, other than the fact of, like, if you're just from a booking standpoint, not from a fan standpoint, but just from a booking standpoint, he does have a lot of appeal to fans in the sense of He's a pretty decent worker, but he has a ton of charisma, and he does fit their mold of what they want from a pro wrestler. So if you look at it and say, okay, he's pretty decent in the ring, he's really good on the mic, he's got his character down really, really well, there's a lot there. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot appeal to LA Knight. And so I get why fans wanted to see him succeed, because he could talk his way into anything. But at the same time, they weren't doing anything with him up until, that summer. So I don't even know why they got behind him, but I'm glad that they did. And I'm glad that we got to see all the moments. And for the longest time there was a instance of like, is LA Knight going to win the big one? Not in the sense of like the world title, but is he just going to win a singles title? Because Jey Uso dealt with this, Sami Zayn dealt with this. There's a lot of guys that dealt with this, where it's like you book them in big-time programs against big-time names with big-time stakes and championships on the line, and they would just fall short every single time, right? Like that was one of the downfalls of Bray Wyatt early in his career, where he would talk this big game, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then the match comes, and he loses, right? Like, and it's like Groundhog Day. It just happens over and over and over. So it's like, well, what are we going to do with this guy? With LA Knight, he was starting to get to that point up until SummerSlam, where he went over Logan Paul and won the U.S. Championship, right? But it wasn't until then, it was like, is this guy going to win the big one, or is he just going to continue to do this over and over and over again? He broke through, luckily, and I think that we should all be very, very grateful for that, because it has turned up and turned around LA Knight's career, right? Now, going forward, where do you go with LA Knight? Well, clearly we're going towards a Bloodline storyline. I don't know how much he will benefit from that. I mean, it's never a bad thing to be inserted into, WWE's top storyline, but it's not like he's right there with Roman Reigns yet. Maybe they'll get there. We just haven't seen it yet. So I'm very curious to see where they go from there. I'm also very curious to see, does he feud with the Jacob Fatu? Does he feud with the Solo Sikoa? Is it just, 6-man, 8-mans? Is it just tag teams? Are they going to do singles? I don't know. But I'm just saying, if you're booking LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu, as much as I'm a believer in LA Knight, as much of a fan I am of LA Knight, I would not put LA Knight over Jacob Fatu. Like, you got to be very, very careful with how you book Jacob Fatu. I'm not beating this guy like a drum anytime soon. So we'll see how everything plays out.